Today on the Cinematic Sound Radio Podcast. We present part one of two of our look back at my favorite scores of 2025, including the music of Matthew Alvado, Simon Franklin, Jerskin Fendrix, Gordy Hobb, Evan Call, and Roman Payot. My name is Eric Woods. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Flagship show on the Cinematic Sound Radio Podcast, which begins now.
And streaming on the web since 1996. This is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Welcome to Cinematic Sound Radio, the show where we celebrate the music that brings film, TV, and video games to life. I'm your host, Eric Woods. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to listen to the program. Before we get started, I don't want to forget my patrons. They're the reason why this show continues after almost 30 years. If you'd like to support the program and become a patron, please head over to patreon.com/cinematicsoundradio. And don't forget that we are on Twitch, live streaming every Thursday and Sunday, but I'm on a summer hiatus at the moment, so the Sunday broadcast has been postponed until the fall. On the program today, I'm presenting part one of my favorite scores of 2025. Now, yes, I know. We're more than halfway done with 2026, so what a better way to spend time than to look back at my favorite scores from last year. Yes, I know. I'm late again presenting my favorite scores of the year, but to be honest, I wasn't really planning on doing a show. Each year, I'm finding it more and more difficult to find those diamonds in the rough. I'm not saying that there aren't great scores being produced, but my goodness, the sheer amount of mediocrity being written in Hollywood and abroad is increasing each and every year, and it's incredibly uninspiring to have to weed through those undeserving scores to find the scores that strive to do more. There is a growing perception among film music enthusiasts that contemporary film scores have become increasingly homogenized, relying more on atmosphere and texture than on memorable themes and melodic development. This is not to say that exceptional film music no longer exists. Many talented composers continue to produce remarkable and inventive work, but those scores often feel like the exception rather than the rule. For listeners who grew up with the rich, creative, imaginative, bold, thematic writing of composers such as John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, Elmer Bernstein, James Horner, or Ennio Morricone, the decline of bold melodies and dramatic musical storytelling can make it seem as though film music is losing one of its most enduring and emotionally powerful qualities. So, I'm becoming one of those who has grown increasingly disillusioned with the industry as a whole, and I'm finding that the effort to find at least 10 to 15 truly great scores each year is becoming increasingly difficult. But I still want to recognize those who really put in the effort. And I've received a few messages from show fans in recent months asking where my year-end show is. Well, here it is. This is my look back at 2025, 6 months later. I hope you enjoy the show anyway. There's lots of great scores coming up in the next 2 episodes, so let's begin now. And before we start, I'm going to present all of this in alphabetical order, and I'll present my favorite score of the year in part 2. We begin with Asterix et Obelix, Les Combats des Chefs, which is a 3D animated miniseries released on Netflix back in April of 2025. It was directed by Alain Chabat and Fabrice Joubert. It's based on the 1966 comic book of the same name. The film takes place in 50 BC, where a Gaulish village resists Roman occupation, now faces a crisis when Obelix accidentally causes Getafix, the town's druid, to lose his memory, taking with it the secret of the magic potion. At the same time, the Romans evoke the ancient custom of the big fight, forcing chief vital statistics to face the pro-Roman chief in a battle that could determine the village's fate. With their freedom at stake, Asterix and Obelix must outwit the Romans and help Getafix recover his memory before it's too late. Anytime I hear that there's a new Asterix and Obelix project being made, I get excited, not so much for the project itself, but for the score that will be written. The Asterix and Obelix films and TV shows have demonstrated that it's a fertile playground for composers, as some of their best work is written for the series. Check out Philippe Rombi and Frederick Talgoren's contributions for what examples I'm talking about. The series offers a canvas to explore lyrical themes and whimsical orchestrations, and that's exactly what French composer Mathieu Alvado has done here. Employing the world-renowned London Symphony Orchestra to perform his score, Alvado gave the musicians a joyous, fun, intricate, lyrical, challenging score to perform a throwback score to the 80s and 90s when the orchestra was working with legendary composers like John Williams, James Horner, Philippe Sard, Trevor Jones, Henry Mancini, David Shire, and Bill Conti, just to name a few. Alvado steps into those masters' shoes and pays proper respect to their classic scores by writing one of his own. There are themes and motifs swirling around the entire score, along with some thrilling action material that challenges the mighty string and brass sections of the LSO. The string writing in particular is virtuosic. We talked earlier about interesting orchestrations, and there's more than just the traditional instrumentation and style being utilized here. There's a surprising jazz cue in the middle of the score, and an electric guitar shows up almost immediately after. A chorus occasionally shows up for some added color as well. Overall, Alvado proves to us once again that the traditional film score isn't dead, and showcases a reason why it should be brought out of the shadows and back into the mainstream with this thrilling, exciting, jolly adventure score. And that was music from Asterix et Obelix, Les Combats des Chefs, with original score composed by Mathieu Alvado, performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Netflix Music.
This is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network, and you're listening to the Flagship Show with Eric Woods.
Up next, music from one of the biggest blockbusters of all time, Avatar: Fire and Ash. This is the third installment in James Cameron's epic sci-fi series. The film continues the story of Jake Sully and Neytiri as they face a new, aggressive Na'vi tribe known as the Ash People, led by the fierce Varang. The film was a major success, grossing roughly $1.79 billion worldwide during its theatrical run. Now, we're not 100% sure whether that number will lead us to a fourth or fifth film, but there is no doubting that this series has been financially successful. Simon Franglen's score for Avatar: Fire and Ash expands on the musical world of Pandora with a notably darker, more urgent emotional palette than its predecessor. Building on themes originally associated with James Horner, Franglen continues to weave recognizable melodic DNA, particularly the Pandora nature motif and the family Na'vi spiritual themes, but reframes them in a more fractured, war-driven way. For the score, Franglen wrote 1,900 pages of score, which undoubtedly is one of the most complex and challenging scores of his career. The operatic scale of this film offered Franglen to continue to write massive orchestral set pieces, as he did in The Way of Water, and that Horner did in the first film. Franglen is a big believer of themes and how they are the heartbeat of a film. And while the familiar themes from the first and second film are repeated in this score, a new set of themes representing the new characters and places are introduced, including the sweeping showstopper heard earlier on in the film for the Wind Traders, who attempt to relocate Sully and his family from danger. The theme is built around a flowing, airy melody that perfectly matches the sky-faring Na'vi clan it represents. Franglen treats it as a seafaring in the sky idea, deliberately invoking the grandeur of classic adventure scoring while filtering it through the established colors of previous Pandora scores. It's glorious, and it's easily one of the finest cues from the series and the best cue I heard in 2025. For the bad guys, the Ash People, who basically want to burn the world down, Franglen introduced a new instrument to the language of Pandora, the Mongolian instrument known as the Morin Kur. In the score, it is processed but offers a new, distinct, threatening sound to the multitude of themes already written for the series. This is an enormous score that fits in perfectly with the other two superb scores in the series. And if this is indeed the end of Avatar, then the music, at least, went out with a bang. Music from the original motion picture soundtrack to Avatar Fire and Ash, with music composed by Simon Franklin, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Walt Disney Records.
On the air and streaming on the web since 1996, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Up next, music from Begonia, which is a black comedy thriller directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and written by Will Tracy. It's the English-language remake of the 2003 South Korean film Save the Green Planet by Jang Joon-hwan. The film follows two young men who kidnap a powerful CEO, suspect that she is secretly an alien who wants to destroy Earth. The film stars Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. Both are outstanding in the film. Now let's talk about the score, and I have a lot to say about it, so bear with me as we're going to get into some facts about the score as well as my opinions about film music as a whole based on how this score was created. So, according to sound designer Johnny Byrne, composer Jerskin Fendrix was asked by director Lanthimos to write a score based on three key words: bees, basement, and spaceship. He didn't provide him with the script or any other footage until after hearing the score. Now, the score, on its own, the music is really, really good. It's insane. Actually, it's a Goldenthal-esque fever dream. However, here is another example of a director not letting the composer see the film, instead giving them a few words of inspiration and then having them write a collection of library cues over the course of a year. Okay, so let's talk about this. I'm going to get on my soapbox here and put on my director's hat. So here we go. My question to you is this what film scoring is evolving into? In my opinion, and yes, this is only my opinion, this modern scoring technique of film composing is gradually destroying the genuine art and craft of scoring to picture, where a composer is an integral part of the storytelling and helps convey the intricacies of the drama, the characters, and the story arc. Having said that, I will offer this counter argument to my own statement. It's like I'm arguing with myself. If we don't know how the music was created and used in the film, does it even matter? Now, I'm not 100% sure whether Fendrix was allowed to tweak his music afterwards, but after reading the various articles on the matter, I got the feeling that he didn't. Now, in an IndieWire article, Fendrix had this to say, quote, "I spent a good amount of time thinking, why is he doing this to me? I would have written a very different score if I'd known what the film was about. If I'd known that there was a great deal of the film that was dialogue heavy and required space for the actors to have this really important discussion, I probably would have pulled back to a certain extent. And he obviously didn't want that." End quote. Again, Fendrix didn't see the film, read the script, or get any other information about the film other than the three words mentioned above, which makes the score and its scoring process and its implementation in this bizarro film that much more interesting and ripe for a continuing discussion on the process of film scoring. I think the music is strikingly original, beautiful, brave, crass, exciting, mighty, and thunderous. That never ruined my listening experience in and away from the film. Surprisingly, the score worked in the film. It shouldn't have due to the intimate nature of the film, but the clashing score seemed to be exactly what the film needed as things became more and more preposterous. It's a stunning achievement, and I'm really curious what Fendrix would have come up with if he scored the film traditionally. Would it have been as brave and out there as the score we got? Who knows? But what we did get, well, simply put, and surprisingly so, worked. And it worked like gangbusters. Music from the original motion picture soundtrack to Begonia, with original score composed by Jerskin Fendrix. And the original soundtrack recording is available on Milan Records.
Bringing you the very best music for film, TV, and video games, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Up next, music from Creation of the Gods 2, Demon Force, with original score composed by Gordy Hobb. This is a Chinese epic fantasy film directed by Wurshan, and it's a sequel to Creations of the God 1, Kingdom of Storms, and is the second film in the trilogy, adapted from the 16th century fantasy novel Investiture of the Gods by Ming Dynasty author Zhu Zhongling. Gordie Hobb's score, like the first in the series, is a sweeping, ambitious, large-scale effort brimming with memorable themes and stunning fantasy orchestral set pieces. It's not all action, and there's a tasteful balance of emotions. Hobb has, over the course of his career, displayed a knack for writing high-octane action set pieces, but it's the richly orchestrated and lyrically sensitive quiet moments that really showcases Hobb's range as a composer. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a massive orchestral action score featuring some of the most ferocious, exciting, dense battle music you will hear in 2025. Creation of the Gods 2 Demon Force stands as one of Hobb's most accomplished film works to date and further demonstrates why he has become one of the most respected composers working in large-scale adventure and fantasy music. Music from the original motion picture soundtrack to Creation of the Gods 2, Demon Force, with original score composed by Gordy Hobb, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Starsing Music.
This is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network, and you're listening to the Flagship Show with Eric Woods.
Next up, we feature music from not an original film, television show, or video game, but from a theme park attraction. It's called Gundam, Next Universal Century, and it's the attraction that immerses people in the world of Gundam's main timeline. The animation portion of the attraction was directed by tokusatsu director Takanori Sugimoto from Ultraman Arc, based on a story and concept by Shigeru Morita from Mobile Suit Gundam Seed. It premiered at the Osaka Expo on April 13th, 2025, and ran until October 13th. Basic premise of the story is this. In AD 2150, visiting Yumoshiya, you join an observation tour of a giant space station, the star Jaburo. With Haro as your guide, you board an orbital elevator and begin a journey to an altitude of 36,000 kilometers. At the space station, circling the Earth in geostationary orbit, various mobile suits are working to continue the advance into space. Then, a sudden incident occurs as something strange happens to the space debris they are trying to remove. Just to be crystal clear, I haven't seen anything from this exhibit. I've seen some drawings, posters, and whatnot, and even a trailer. And to be honest, it looks pretty spectacular, and I'd love to go there and experience it myself. As for the score, it was written by one of the most talented composers working today, Evan Call. Here is another grand symphonic score with an anthemic feel, and grand, and I mean grand score with a capital G. There are big themes with a certain space opera feel to them. It's glorious stuff for those that are aching to hear this sort of material in current blockbuster Hollywood flair. All of the cues are fully fleshed out pieces with a distinct story to tell. There are calmer cues, not many, but they are equally interesting as they add some atmospheric electronics to Call's orchestral colors. In addition to all of the orchestral might, Call ups the ante with the incorporation of a full chorus that just sends the score into the stratosphere. The score is only 29 minutes, but Call makes the most of it. Music from the attraction Gundam Next Universal Century, with music by Evan Call, and the original soundtrack recording is available on Bandai Namco Music Live.
Bringing you the very best music for film, TV, and video games, this is the Cinematic Sound Radio Network.
Up next, music from a dramatic short film directed by Pierre Nogara and Paul Perron called Les Secrets de Martha, exploring a story of love and secrets during World War II in Normandy. The film follows an investigation into the mysterious past of a German soldier and his affair with a French woman. It premiered at the D-Day experience in 2025. As for the score, well, we end today's show with the shortest score on the list, a 19-minute mini masterpiece composed by Romain Payot. Now, those that know me know that I'm not a fan of the waltz, but the Waltz Light main theme here is simply wonderful. There's an airy nature to the theme, which is assisted by a wonderfully open recording that just surrounds you from all sides. The string-led theme makes you want to dance, and then that light, comfy feel succumbs to the brass, which adds strength and weight to the piece. The score's love theme is tender, delicate, romantic, but not schmaltzy. It flutters at the risk of being caught due to the nature of the forbidden love between a German soldier and a French woman. There are darker cues as the story moves along with some added vocals that are haunting. There's even a few action pieces that are pulse-pounding with monstrous drums and big crescendos. Having said that, the main theme is never too far away. It's weaved throughout with such perfection that it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's always present in a new arrangement, keeping it fresh. There's just so much emotion poured into this score, and for it to all be wrapped up in just 19 minutes is such a shame because I desperately wanted more. And I certainly want more from Romain Payot, who certainly has a great career ahead of him if people just give him a chance to score something bigger with more cultural impact. But as long as he's working, whether on a blockbuster or a short film like this, we are the ones who benefit from experiencing his wonderful, timeless music. And that's it for this first episode of my favorite scores of 2025. On the next episode of the Flagship Show, I'll present the remaining scores on my list, as well as my number one favorite score of 2025. You don't want to miss it. Until next time, please take care wherever you are in this world, and happy listening. And now, music from Les Secrets de Martha, with original score by Romain Payot, and is released through Romain Payot's own record label. Thank you for listening to the Cinematic Sound Radio Podcast. I want to thank Tim Burton for providing his voice for all the bumpers you hear throughout the program, and to David Coscina for providing Cinematic Sound Radio's theme music. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at cinematicsound@yahoo.com. You can find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And wherever you're listening to us today, please take a moment right now to leave us a rating and a review of the podcast. You can get a Cinematic Sound Radio t-shirt at our TeePublic store. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/cinematicsoundradio. And don't forget to check us out on the web at cinematicsound.net.